Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
And I'm Andrew Acebo.
And we're joined this week by a special guest.
I'm Brendan Acebo.
Hey!
Returning guest.
First return?
Am I the first returning guest?
You already were because you did two.
Yeah, but that was a two-parter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But yes, so both our first returning guest and our first three-timer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Two for one situation.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the podcast, and
He will listen to it in the car with me, and it is agonizing.
I have done that. Yeah, it's true. The other thing is that every other week I do work on Tuesday mornings at the hospital, and so that's when the pod is dropped.
It
You all
is.
know that, and you super fans. So I will literally, I'll be driving to work to I work in a mental hospital, and I'll be psyching myself up for the day. And I'll put on the podcast and just laugh about it.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't
Yay.
know. It's not a bad way to start a Tuesday.
No, I kind of hate when I genuinely enjoy listening back to the show. It's I don't know what having a podcast has done for my self-esteem in the sense that it either boosts it a ton or just completely obliterates it.
Try editing.
Yeah.
The show. It makes for a very interesting experience.
What?
Well,
yeah,
okay,
do
so
you
listen
want
to it,
to
but
open up that a little bit?
Well, just I've become way more aware of things that I do and the way I talk, and in some ways it's nice because I then also can try and course correct, but in other ways I'm listening back to the thing and I'm kicking myself because I'm you knew that was bad when you did that, but you did it anyways.
Oh my gosh, can we please get an example?
What? Oh, just taking weird pauses, or one of my classic ones, especially for people who have listened from the beginning, or have listened to an old episode recently. I, especially early on when I was gathering my thoughts, would really drag out the words until I could get to where I knew the sentence needed to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And that is brutal. There is no way to edit that other than redubbing it. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I had paused, gathered my thoughts, and then said a complete sentence, I could have edited out the pause and it would have been perfect. But instead I was what if I just drag things out?
Yeah.
And then that is in the final audio because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah, no, that's... I feel that way about me saying all the time. I say a lot.
Yeah.
Oh my.
But see, ums are way easier to edit.
Yes, they are. Yes.
Because... yeah,
because I do that for the Scrub soundtrack. And sometimes the Andrew Acebo podcast.
Yeah.
Wow.
Speaking of which, episode coming soon. It's been recorded.
Gasp.
What episode are we talking about today, Dylan?
Yeah. So we're talking about episode 333, The Last Resort, which is
Yes. Yeah,
the
please keep that in there, by the way.
Yo, absolutely. It's the penultimate episode of the Blackgaard Chronicles, and Brendan's been bugging us to come on an episode and talk about Blackgaard. Oh, sorry, penultimate episode of Darkness Before Dawn.
Yes.
Correct.
Because we still
have Blackgaard's Revenge, which we constantly
Forget.
don't talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, but here's the thing. I knew that you guys were going to do the Blackgaard Chronicles, and I started listening. Oh my gosh, this is months ago.
Yeah, you re-listened to the Blackgaard Chronicles a couple times.
I did, yeah. I just kind of got into this routine where it was oh, this is fun to have on in the background. I haven't listened to this since I was a kid. Mm-hmm. I can kind of remember how I felt when I was listening to it when I was younger, and also it hits me different because I'm older now.
Good place to be in.
Right, and my literally the reason this podcast exists. So,
Yeah.
So I was listening through, and I got to this, The Last Resort, and this is easily my favorite episode in Darkness Before Dawn.
Oh, I'm so glad it worked out this way.
So
though.
I was hoping, when I heard it, I was I hope I can get on for that episode. That would be so fun for me. If I could only do one. Because the final conflict is, it's heavy, but it's also kind of short.
Right, well, and the final conflict, is wrapping up the series. So Andrew and I were that's going to be a long episode. We do not need
a guest for that.
Yeah.
Our guest episodes are quite long, typically.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, interesting that this is your favorite. As per the ratings on the wiki, this is the second lowest off this off the Blackgaard Chronicles.
Really?
Off the Darkness Before Dawn segment of the Blackgaard Chronicles. Gathering Thunder, which is the episode where Butch is spying, is rated a 90%, and this one's got a 92.
Oh,
Everything
okay.
else is above that. Also, nothing is low rated.
Yeah, I was gonna
it's
say,
the lowest rated in a range of 96 to 90.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Well, and I think the lowest rated Odyssey episode is in the 70s too.
Yeah,
Do we know what the...
I mean, I've found it before.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can find it now, but it does.
That's fine.
It does exist on the wiki of yes, this is the one that the people have voted and said no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It might be a Twilight Zone episode. Who
Probably
knows?
would be.
The boy who didn't go to church.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But yeah, and
Do we have any unique cast members for this episode?
we have Bob Smithhauser as Lieutenant Shaw. The policeman who arrests
Yes.
Jason.
Spoiler.
And he's interesting. So he is not a voice actor, though he has been on a handful of episodes doing different people. No one of real consequence, but he is a writer, editor, and podcast host for Focus on the Family.
Hey.
So he
there you go.
hosted the AIO podcast. The official podcast.
Yeah.
He's been a host on that. He's hosted a bunch of plugged in stuff as well as writing and editing. Yeah.
Plugged in.
Boy, that took me back.
And just in the past year has written 2 episodes of Adventures in Odyssey. One that he co-wrote with Phil Lawler, and then the March episode for the club this year he wrote on his own. So
How about
I
that?
have a weird amount of knowledge about him. And
Has a pretty good, convincing cop voice, to be honest with you.
yeah, no, it's one of those things where I was listening to it and I was like, he's not one of the voices that I know, but he is doing a good job. I wonder who he is, and then it makes sense that
Right.
he is a guy who records audio for a job.
I feel that way, though, about Paul McCusker in this show, where it's
Yes.
he does a great job as Glassman.
So good.
Yeah.
But also, the first time I heard his voice, his normal speaking voice, it was like, well, yeah, oh my gosh, it's Philip Glassman. The same thing with oh my goodness, who's the other one that is the
Phil
voice?
Lawler
Yeah,
doing...
the voice of Dale Jacobs.
Yep.
Where it's just okay, yeah, this is your main character, the one that I know the most, is also just your speaking
Right,
voice.
exactly. You're not putting on a character, you're not doing a voice. And that's even true of some of the people on this show who are more voice actors. I mean, all the kids, a lot of the, but even some of the, there are a couple specific people where you're like, oh, you are very much a voice actor. When you talk about your Jess Harnells and your Will Ryans are the two big ones, and Corey Burton.
Yeah. Oh my
those are ones where it's oh, they will get this person to play everyone, and they do a really good job of it. But there are definitely people throughout who you're oh, you're not really doing
If you can
did much of a performance. You are kind of just this is the way you talk.
If you can be
and
Wooten,
it's really good for this character.
If you can be Wooten and Mr. Charles,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
are a voice actor. Oh my lord.
Well, if you can be Eugene and Harlow Doyle,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same guy.
yeah, that's Will Ryan.
Man in the crowd.
Right.
That's your first time? You didn't know that?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I could see it.
You know that Tom Riley and Bart Rathbone are the same guy, right?
Well, yes, I know that,
And-
and I know that Mitch and Rodney are the same. Yeah.
Which is another one that I really like.
Yeah.
But yes, we haven't had a Harlow episode at all in this show, so it hasn't really come up. But yeah.
That's our next arc.
I just know.
No, it's not. Please let it not be.
It was definitely Harlow's, or Will Ryan rather, that was in the crowd. I think it was in the last episode. It was
Yes.
why didn't you test the soil?
Oh, yeah.
That was,
Yep.
I knew that. And I was
he
like,
was
oh,
man
that's
in
Harlow
crouch.
Doyle for sure.
Yeah.
I just didn't realize that was also the voice of Eugene, and
Right.
shout out to the Land Before Time, Petrie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dynamic.
Petrie. So yeah, with all that off the top, I think I'm going to roll the promo.
Please do.
Unless there's anything else we need to say. I think we've covered it.
Clues keep falling into place on the next adventure in Odyssey. Just when Jason Whittaker believes he's cracked the case of Blackgaard's diabolical plot, he winds up in jail. But can top secret information stored in a laptop computer reveal what's really going on and bring Dr. Blackgaard to justice? Learn more next time on Adventures in Odyssey.
I'm going to be honest, I did not hear any of the words spoken because I was too busy listening to that music.
That
so
music
you guys
was so
are going to need to cover
erratic.
this.
No, so here's the thing. Here's the thing. Do they listen to... Like, what? Where are they pulling this from? They were like, I've listened to the episode. It's time to make the promo. You know what we need? We need a cross between game show music and 8-bit arcade music from, like, the original 007 game.
Uh-huh. Yep.
That was incredibly precise. I
I
want
know.
to congratulate
Yeah,
Thank you.
well on
Well
that.
Thank
done.
thank you.
Put my thoughts into very good words.
Oh my goodness. That music was like the musical equivalent of
Pineapple Fanta.
Man, no, I was gonna say
Love a
like
pineapple Fanta.
really big like 80s and 90s hair scrunchies.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
That's fair.
Yeah, it is
And very white sneakers.
Yes.
The whitest sneakers.
truly something else. That has been the narrative arc of this show is that the thing we care most about, the question we most need answered is,
Who does the promos?
what is happening with the promos?
They're just so bonkers. They're all
Yeah.
over the place. And the thing is, like, they really go back and forth between we're not going to spoil anything. We're going to try to be intriguing. Also, the music is going to be just awful. And then it's going to trail on for, like, 10 seconds after we've said our last word.
Yeah. Oh, every time.
Yeah.
Right.
Every time.
And then the other times they'll do it and it'll be like, the music is also going to be bonkers. It's also going to make no sense. But we're also going to basically summarize the entire episode so that there's no reason to listen to it.
And sometimes the person narrating is a rat.
Yep. That happened that one time.
I do remember that. That was they
no
had the
comment.
rat and they also had the inspector that one time.
Yes.
Yep.
Like oh my gosh. It was just oh man.
Yeah.
I don't understand, like,
How many hands did that pass through that they thought it was okay?
I don't know. I don't think this person has any oversight.
There must not be.
Okay, so what I want to believe about the situation is that Dr. James Dobson is a huge fan of, like, greasy old detective shows and also wants to somehow put his creative imprint on Adventures in Odyssey, but no one will let him except for the promos.
Oh no, I was assuming they had, like, the office drug addict or something like that was just only in charge of the promo.
Oh man.
I like this idea that they're like, no, president of our company, you can't touch anything except the promos.
Well, it was just like
We'll throw him a bone. Give him the promos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So back in the day, all three of us went to a church
Venmo.
where there was a pastor
Venmo for bones?
who was a pretty good speaker. He was also a very enthusiastic trombonist.
That is true.
And so the worship leader of the church, who creatively was pretty different from the senior pastor, would occasionally throw him a bone so that he could do something on the worship team.
Throw him
with
a trombone.
Ooh,
Hey.
there it was. Wow. That was such low-hanging fruit.
It really was.
That just like dropped in my lap. Wow.
I made a Venmo for Bones joke before
Yeah,
that you
no,
came
we
with that.
all ignored that.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I
It's
didn't
worth
like that
ignoring.
one.
It was a bad joke.
I said it quietly because I didn't want anybody to hear it.
Okay, so but then you said it loudly. But the point is like, I want to imagine that they're in the same creative situation where it's like, we value you as a person. I want you to feel like you're contributing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But also, you have 20 seconds.
He can't do that much harm in 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Although maybe he can.
Yeah.
And the thing is that
It's a
with
30-second promo. The 20 seconds is just the last 10 seconds is not dialogue.
right. So it's like it's a Jack White situation where it's like Jack White talks all the time about some selectively limiting himself so that he has to do more with less. So like compensate for what you don't have. So I'm imagining Dr. James Dobson is like, what can I possibly do that's impactful and memorable in 20 seconds? And he ends up with a rat.
Yeah.
Like, he's basically pioneering TikTok. Is what he's doing.
Actually.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh, is there an
original
Adventures in Odyssey side of TikTok? Cause
We've already had this conversation, and someone has already reached out to
The
say...
Wad Fam TikTok?
Yes.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
I didn't know there was feedback from that.
Yeah, we got a link from someone, from a listener saying, "Hey, this person has made Odyssey TikToks." So,
Oh my goodness. Has anybody...
Is that my brand now?
Did anybody
Maybe.
pick up on the Wad Fam TikTok? Because I thought that was a good line.
I heard it. It clicked, and then I did not acknowledge it. I'm trying to decide, like, does it need to be like it should be the Wad Fam Talk Tick? But I don't know if that's better or worse.
Better.
It sounds like
The Wad
sounds
Fam
like a
Talk Tick.
condition. I have a
Or
talk
the
tick.
or the Wad TikTok Pod.
Oh. No, because that implies it's a podcast.
Right, I know. It doesn't.
The Wad Fam TikTok, I think, is definitely.
Yeah, I think yes. If you want to capture that market, Andrew, I will relinquish that part of my IP control.
This isn't me emoting. This is genuine shock and awe.
Shock it all.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, Chalk Squad. I'm coming at you.
Oh my gosh. If
So-
we can get you a Meltzner vest and some glasses.
I still will look nothing like Eugene.
And a wig that covers your eyes, but you put the glasses on over top of that.
Yep.
Oh,
Then
man.
maybe. Then maybe. No, I'm not thinking dressing up as characters. I'm thinking of, like, commentating on us recording and also the episodes as well.
Or just
Making funny jokes about the episode.
lip syncing to Adventures in Odyssey audio.
Oh.
What?
So you're not actually doing impressions. You're doing impressions of impressions.
Exactly. Well, that's what TikTok is. It's just lip syncing.
I mean, that's where it started.
Yeah.
Double impressions. Dimpressions. Depression.
Oh.
Oof.
Then I'll be great at it.
I was gonna say, yeah. Coming at you from where I live.
So Andrew, how does this episode begin?
Honestly, I am so off.
It begins with a... No, I got this.
Go for it.
It begins with a conversation between Tom and Jason and Eugene. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to remember...
Jack's there, too.
Jack's present for that, too. And they're talking about what has just happened with Jellyfish, just because we get an amazing Tom Riley questioningly saying jellyfish.
Yeah. Jellyfish?
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 Which
It's so good. And then and Jason's
is it his first time hearing about jellyfish?
from Maxwell,
Yeah.
when he comes to his
Right.
office. Yeah, so he should have known.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So just so we're clear, like
Not the
This
first
has
time
come
hearing
up
the name.
before,
Oh yeah.
but he is very confused by it.
Right. And
Which he might just not have been listening to Richard, because of course.
Oh, by the
sure.
way, Maxwell, well, Tom is suspicious of Maxwell, right?
right.
Oh, it's bad.
He's in a coma.
Yeah, so Richard Maxwell's in a coma.
He's
Jason
literally,
is
like,
explaining
doing the
that,
equivalent of walking over his grave.
Right.
well, yeah, kind
Just
of.
about.
So Jason is explaining to Tom that Richard saved Lucy. The
Nah,
other night.
he would really hurt her though. That sounds like something he would do to her.
He
not
does say that. Yeah. And then
I love it's such an attack.
Jason is just Tom, I think you're really way off base about Richard.
Yeah.
It was like, wow, that's incredibly direct feedback. Thanks for that.
And you're also calling him Richard, which is new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is like, this is a humanizing moment for Maxwell.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, he said Richard and it didn't click initially because I was like, Richard? Oh, right.
Yeah,
that's his first name.
Mm-hmm. He's got one of those.
It's like when anybody says Regis.
Ooh. Yeah, that's got a... Mufasa. Yeah, that's got that effect.
Or if they called him Philip. Like, you don't even know who I'm talking about right now.
Grossman? You're like, ew. There's something weird about that.
No, all the villains are last name only.
Yep.
Except for Jellyfish, who has his own name.
Yeah.
So,
which is last name...
all I know is his first name is Myron.
That's all you know. You never know.
Which is just...
No, the wiki does list his last name as being... let me see if I can find it. Apparently I cannot.
Myron...
Oh, because he doesn't actually speak in this episode. One moment while I go to his page. Myron Horowitz.
Oh, we made him...
Polish?
I think that is Polish.
Sounds Polish.
I think it's Polish. So, the end of the last episode ends with Jason getting that call from Jack saying, hey, Maxwell's in the hospital. And so he leaves. Eugene and Tom are there at the time. They go with. Why did Tom go along? He is just here whining. Like, I realize why he did from a plot perspective, but why did he personally choose to go along when then he just sits there and talks bad on Maxwell?
FOMO. Tom Riley has terrible FOMO, and he doesn't want to miss all the sweet hospital tea.
He is a mayor. He has so many better things to be doing than going to the hospital to visit a sworn enemy that he is not even slightly reconciled with.
Right, so it's a plot. It's a plot convenience for sure. It's because they need to get Tom and Richard to reconcile eventually, and they need to... I guess they felt like they had to move the ball one step further towards that.
The sequence of events is Tom shows up at Jason's house as Maxwell is leaving, throws some serious shade at Maxwell. Maxwell leaves, falls off a cliff, goes into a coma. Jack finds him. Tom is still at Jason's house. And then they all go see Maxwell, and Tom is
throwing
still mad at Max. Like, it's... Yeah.
It's tough.
So then what we get is we have a cut scene to Rodney Rathbone in presumably the reception area of this hospital.
Triage.
Yeah.
Right. And he's asking whoever the nurse at the desk is or the receptionist is.
Patient care assistant.
Could be a PCA, you're right. And and he's asking about a patient and, I want to know if they're okay. And then I thought this was hilarious.
Yes.
The receptionist's like, I'm sorry, I can't I can't discuss patients' conditions with you, but you can go upstairs to the emergency room and ask there. And he's like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I can't
glad
tell
you
you
guys
anything
called.
about him, but also he's definitely here. He's definitely in emergency care, and you can go there.
I'm so
Random
glad
kid?
that you clocked that, because I was also like
taken aback.
What is this system where it's like, no, here at reception we are not permitted to tell you anything, but if you go further into the hospital you will get more info.
Yeah.
It should be the opposite.
No, I think... Was there a time, though, when that's how hospitals worked, where they were much more lenient with security and stuff? Because this was recorded in the 90s.
Yes. 95.
Yeah.
Well, maybe recorded before then, but probably not. It's a September
this was
episode.
All we had to
electronic
do,
records.
I feel like all we needed out of that was, for some reason, Rodney's in the same elevator as Eugene and Jason, and so that
for
happens.
an insane scene. So
It is an
Rodney
insane scene.
presses the elevator button to so Jason and Eugene
How did Rodney
have
get to the
already
hospital?
said that he walked. It's Odyssey. Jason and Eugene have already said that they are leaving. That they are leaving they're leaving to go and get more information or continue to investigate the And so they're going down in the elevator. They press the button, or Rodney presses the button, goes to walk in. There's that exchange where they like realize who each other is.
Sorry,
and then
wrong
Jason,
elevator.
and
That's
then
what he
Jason
says.
grabs him, drags him into the elevator, and tosses him against the wall. If the sound effects are to be believed as canon,
Right.
And they have to be. That's the show.
Yeah. It's a good
You
thing
can't
those
do this to
hospital...
me. You're an adult. Eugene, you're a witness. And then Eugene, stone cold. Witness to what? I'm
No, I'm
so-
with Rodney. Rodney's
gonna die.
absolutely right.
Rodney's gonna get killed in a hospital and stuffed in a supply closet.
So Jason Whittaker is roughing up a minor in a hospital elevator in front of Eugene, and Eugene is thinking to himself, I will just let this play out. We'll just see what happens here.
Yeah. Eugene's like, I've been a Christian for a week. This seems reasonable.
It's amazing how it can take a toll on your morale. Just kidding. Just kidding.
It's just the throwing a child into a wall is insane.
I could get it if they did the whole, like, drag him in by his ear and they do the whole funny bit where it's, like, kind of a parent situation. But this is just assault. This is just assault of a minor.
It's really rough. So Rodney then takes the time to recap last episode
Thank goodness.
and explains that, at this point they have stopped the elevator in between floors.
This is a hospital. They need those.
Jason's like, Eugene, stop the elevator. And they do. So it then...
That's the sound of Andrew beating his head.
In case that doesn't come through. Yeah.
Oh,
well, and
man.
also, like,
Ow.
I feel like most elevators that are in, like, hospitals are not going... You're not going to be able to do it either.
No, you can't.
They always have to have emergency stops, but,
I
like,
got stuck in an elevator at the hospital one time.
because you stopped it yourself?
No, but it had a button in there to stop it. I know because I got stuck in the
Right.
elevator and wasn't doing
Okay.
anything, and I tried pressing the stop button to see if, like, maybe if I pressed it again that it would release or something.
Yeah, negative times a negative kind of deal.
Yeah.
Two wrongs make a right.
Two lefts don't make a right,
But
three do. Oh, man.
Hey, the Wad Fam Chalk Squad. They might be into Reliant K. It was the first album
yes.
I ever had on CD.
Anyways, this is
Yes.
wild. And so the couple things of note here. One, Rodney being genuinely terrified of Jason. But two, to recap the previous episode, as Rodney does, he was at Wit's End. He took Maxwell into Wit's End through the service entrance. Rodney got out of there while Maxwell created a diversion and got captured. Rodney then stuck around, and when Bovril and Jellyfish threw him into a truck and to take him to Trickle Lake to dump him out the window, well, I mean, he jumped,
They were
but you
gonna
know.
kill him.
Right. When they do all that, Rodney follows.
So this was my question too, because I was listening to it and I was like, how in the Sam heck does Rodney get all the way up there to Trickle Lake? Does he have a car? Because he cannot bike that fast. There is no way.
So the only thing I can come up with
Is that he drives a Tercel.
That I wrote that down in my notes. Are you kidding me?
good bit.
Does Rodney have a car?
Is it a Tercel? But yeah, so the only thing I can come up with is that he pulled a Back to the Future and put a skateboard and is just hanging on to the back of their van going up to Trickle Lake. Which is always up, so it's definitely a hill as well.
Yeah. And don't they slam on the brakes?
Probably.
Wouldn't Rodney have gone flying into the car?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's my headcanon, but it is genuinely insane.
Unless
and also
he was on a longboard on his stomach, and then when they slammed on the brakes, he just went under the car.
brilliant. But like the other thing is fully unnecessary.
Yes.
Nothing is gained by this.
Yes.
Rodney could say, I saw them leave in a van. I assume that's where Maxwell was. And then he turned up on the side of the road. Problem solved. Like you didn't
That's true,
need
that's true.
You didn't need Rodney to be like, yeah, I followed them.
Well, I mean, how else would he have been on that remote road? I get it. It serves the plot, but it does
but
create
he
a
doesn't.
giant hole.
Jack has already found Maxwell.
Oh, yeah.
So Rodney doesn't need to have found Maxwell. He just needs to have heard through the grapevine that Maxwell's at the hospital, and that's why he's turning up.
And there's a more believable way that they could have done that. That's true. Right. That's very true.
Or he sees...
Right. But the important plot point of this conversation is that Eugene and Jason find out that there's a laptop computer that could have information on it that might be useful to their cause. Rodney starts throwing the us around, and they're like, what do you mean us? Like, you're working for them. And he's like, look, I don't like them any better than you do. Right. So, and this is where Rodney starts to become more openly on the Wits End team of things.
Of the Angels.
So he kind of is like a turncoat at this point. Mm-hmm. He's made his switch over.
Right, because the whole thing with Maxwell was like, it's contingent on the fact that, like, I'm going to get my name written out of it and whatnot, and this episode, Rodney does not care about that.
Right.
He seems to have, to some extent, grappled with the gravity of the situation and understanding that, like, a guy was thrown out of a guy jumped out of a car because the option otherwise was death.
Yeah.
That might make you kind of rethink some things.
Okay, so Jason...
Then we hatch a plan.
Yeah, so Jason...
The best plan.
So Jason and Eugene decide that they need to try to get some kind of reconnaissance on...
This laptop
to figure out how they can get access to it and if it's really as good as they say. And we have a cutscene to Jason getting back in the car with Eugene after having spied through a window on Jellyfish using the laptop in Blackgaard's office at the Harlequin Dinner Theater.
Correct.
And he starts saying things like key words that he saw on the document. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, either Jellyfish writes in, like, font 72 Algerian.
Yeah.
And it is just, like, the most bold, legible thing. Or Jason Whittaker has the eyes of a peregrine falcon.
Dude, like, he's got...
How could he possibly read this?
Because he's got spy goggles.
Fair. He does have spy goggles.
He probably does have spy goggles.
He even mentions the bat phone.
He does mention the bat phone. I'm so glad.
That was amazing. I did hear that.
Makes me really happy. Right before he gets arrested.
Spoiler alert.
So, this is an amazing scene with Jason and Eugene hatching a plot to try to get access to this laptop.
They're talking about all the stuff that was on the laptop, and it gives Eugene an excuse to re-explain to the audience what Edgebiter is and why that matters to the plot.
Right.
And
the Edgebiter chemical company?
Right.
Yeah.
And then he uses that as a thing to say, like, oh, like, someone should tell Tom that Maxwell was trying to help him. And he's just, like, in complete exposition mode, which is really, really fun. Because he just keeps saying all this stuff, and Jason just keeps going, yeah, I know. And it's great, because it is within Eugene's character, and also only for the benefit of the audience.
Yeah.
Right. And then Jason puts it on Eugene to explain to Tom what Richard had been doing to try to help him.
Yep.
And Jason, and then infrared data port ex machina.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
ding.
So we had established, first of all, in the last episode, that the laptops that Blackgaard gave to Bovril and to Jellyfish have infrared data ports so that they can share space.
Right.
Or share data.
Yes.
And Jason says that he can effectively steal all the information on this laptop so that they can make copies of it through infrared
to high frequency radio waves.
Right.
So essentially what he's doing in an era before Wi-Fi is, so infrared is the wireless transmission tech of the time, and it is direct line of sight. So there is a port on the computer that can project out infrared, and you can have another device receiving that, and they have to be perfectly lined up to connect.
Right.
What Jason is saying is he has this device that looks like a paperweight that he can, using that infrared connection, make that connection and then rebroadcast the info over high-frequency radio waves, or essentially Wi-Fi or Bluetooth.
Right.
Like, he has a way to then, without direct line of sight,
Right.
communicate with that device.
So he needs direct line of sight, but not 100%.
Correct.
And so that puts
To
him
get
in a
it off the
position-
computer, he needs direct line of sight.
Right.
But once it's off the computer, he can broadcast it to his computer through walls in a very modern way.
And
So
thus,
now, no, wait. Before we get to what we want the most,
I
because
want it so bad.
I know you do.
We know, Andrew.
Let me tell you
wanna-
something. So then, Eugene. Oh my Lanta. So then Eugene becomes
me
very
eating.
concerned about the legal ramifications of
yeah.
said action, and he gives a. And
you got
Jason
the
is
list?
best- yeah,
'Cause
I
I've got
the
it
list.
as well.
Yeah. So basically, Jason's being a secret agent again, and Eugene says, stealing this information is against the law, and Jason says, not if you have a court order. She said, do we have grounds for a court order? And he said, how about suspicion of fraud, conspiracy, malice, racketeering, and domestic terrorism? And Eugene says, that's a good start.
Yeah.
And it's just like Eugene, Jason is so conveniently really well connected.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, can we track what is what in that? So the conspiracy is to get Tom out of the mayoral position. The fraud is the fact that, like,
The phony edge biter, right?
the edge biter, and the fact that they took on over wits end under false
Right.
pretenses. Malice,
I don't know if malice is a charge.
right? Is malice a legal thing that I don't know about? Right in, if
Malice
you know.
is you can throw that onto a charge.
Okay. Malice is also a really bad movie that I love.
Oh my lord. Okay. But I just love, on top of it all, at the end, just to top it off, domestic terrorism.
Domestic terrorism.
Like-
What is the domestic terrorism?
Vandalism.
Is it the poisoning the water supply? Is that what you're arguing for? Because, like,
I mean,
that's-
maybe, but it could also be. Well, yeah, because he doesn't know about
he's
the
straight up
virus. at this
No,
point.
he doesn't.
A
So it's
bunch
maybe-
of buildings.
yeah, maybe it's the gang stuff.
Yeah,
is
it's not-
considered
I mean,
domestic
like,
terrorism. Like,
Spray painting
all
a
of
war
the
memorial is just vandalism, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure if you are literally have a crime syndicate where you just bust up shops, I feel like
Yeah.
that counts.
Yeah, it's just interesting that vandalism wasn't one of the things, and
Yeah.
they went straight for domestic terrorism, which also it's 95, so we will keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Yes. So the problem is they need somebody to get this thing that looks like a paperweight into the office and put it in direct line of sight with the laptop. And Jason is stumped because he doesn't know of anybody that would be unsuspicious enough that they could conceivably get in there.
Right.
And Eugene calculates, like, at high speed and just goes, yes! I believe I know the very man we seek, or whatever. Something Eugene.
Yes.
And it's a cutscene. And who's it a cutscene to, Andrew?
Bernard Walton.
You want me to do what?
And it's so good. Gosh, I love Bernard Walton. I
my
love
goodness.
him
We
so
know.
much. He's a hero in this episode. Oh, he's so funny. He like lays it on.
So they
he
get-
is doing the most.
Right, so
Get it.
Bernard is concerned that Eugene has been, reading science fiction novels and
Yes.
that they've messed with his mind.
Yeah.
Which tells the listener that they've had conversations in the past where Bernard tries to convince Eugene not to read science fiction novels, which is just funny for me to think about.
Yeah. I mean, it had to have happened on the road trip, right?
Oh, yeah, good point.
You want to listen to Dune, Bernard? We're driving across the country. We can finish half of it.
Oh my gosh. So they have to convince Bernard that he's been a window washer longer than he was ever involved with Tom's campaign because he was Tom's campaign manager, and that this is the way that he can help now. And Bernard, his final hang-up is not that is not the risk or anything like that. It's that he doesn't know anything about computers. And Eugene says, you don't have to know anything. That's what makes you perfect for this job.
Target when they hired me.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so yeah, the other part of the conversation then goes to kind of what are the risks. So if someone tries to open a file while they're copying, an error is going to show up, and they might just shrug and maybe shut down the computer, which would break the connection, or they might get suspicious and investigate and find out that we are stealing their info. And Bernard's like, well, then why don't you just let me clear the room for like a half hour or so? And everyone's like, what?
You can do that?
It's like, oh, boys, you have no idea.
Tomorrow
Mustard
morning,
gas.
sit back and let the master go to work. That was my, not best, but not worst Bernard impression, and that is a direct quote.
Yeah.
It is.
So the next morning, we cut to a conversation with Blackgaard and Professor Bovril. Bovril is explaining to Blackgaard that with the, TA 418 that they were able to get from the Underground Railroad tunnel, he's been plugging it into all of these chemical formulae that were considered untenable, that they could not be made, and it basically works as a catalyst or
it's a stabilizing agent.
Or a stabilizing agent for a bunch of other chemical compounds. So they can't
So it's the mineral that's in the tunnel.
Right,
It's an undisclosed mineral. That's
Wit has unlocked the key to super meth.
right.
But yeah,
it's just an undisclosed mineral that's been in the tunnel that we've been hearing about in the past couple of episodes, also referred to as the Silent One.
right.
And yeah, it has a stabilizing effect on formulas.
Right. And so Blackgaard is the most jovial we ever hear him.
Yep.
And I love, he's got such a good Blackgaard line where he says, as soon as he gets really excited, wonderful, simply wonderful, he's like, first things first, we must have control. And I was like, that is such a good villain line. And no sooner does he say that you hear in the background, hello, Edwin, it's me. What in the world?
Yeah. Anybody here?
And so they open up the door, and it's Bernie Walton.
Hey.
Bernie Walton, window washer.
He lets himself in.
He is hamming it up.
So good.
Oh my gosh, he's so over the top folksy.
It's so good.
It's
Scratch my
incredible.
ears and call me Sparky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also a direct quote.
Yep.
Yep. Which is also a line that Bernard would say anyways, but he is selling it so much harder right now.
Yeah, he lays on the accent. He's so charming in just making him seem as unassuming as physically possible by the just
But then
yokel
also
times 9,000.
right, but then also being folksy but manipulative.
Oh yeah.
Folksy but forceful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and
he completely manhandles Blackgaard.
So
so
the point is, Bernard Walton
is,
for those of you that don't know, and how could you not, he's a window washer by trade. He washes windows. He has a contract, or at least in this scene, he says he has a contract with the Harlequin Dinner Theater, and he says that he comes to wash their windows every Tuesday at 9, except for the past few weeks, which is incredibly convenient.
Right.
Also, the fact that this is happening on a Tuesday morning blows my mind. Because we're talking about some kind of shady secret agent stuff, and it's happening on a Tuesday morning.
Tuesday mornings are the most suspicious days.
Someone's eating a breakfast biscuit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Jimmy Dean, perhaps.
And yeah, and so he's got this whole thing where he's immediately calling him Edwin. And then Regis finally explains, and he's like, oh, you're the guy running for mayor. I'm planning on voting for you. So he's got his foot in the door of Blackgaard's got to be on his best behavior because he's in front of a
Absolutely
loyal constituent.
Manhandles him.
And so
he grabs him by the short ones.
Right, and so he's like, Blackgaard's like, well, you don't have to wash today. He's like, no, the contract says I do. And he's like, well, you can just skip it, and I'll tell Edwin that, you did it. And he's like, oh, you would lie? And Blackgaard's like, no, but come back another time. And he's like, no, I got to do this now.
He says, Bernie Walton has never reneged on a contract in his life. I ain't about to start now.
Direct quote.
Yeah. Again.
And so he so he starts washing the windows in the office, and Blackgaard's like, really? You got to start in the office? And then he sprays.
He proceeds to I imagine him uncorking vats of chemicals, and we get
dirt be gone,
best stuff in the business. And so Blackgaard starts.
He's got a mask on and pulls it, and Blackgaard's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, this is why I wear the mask."
The mask and goggles. He says, and
goggles.
And Blackgaard and Bovril start hacking up a lung, and it is the most prolonged coughing / dialogue I think I've ever heard. It is two adult men. And I listened close. This is a weird thing, but I listened close to see if they were just looping. And I don't think they were. No. I'm pretty sure that whoever those voice actors were had to keep it up.
Maybe Dave Madden is just really, really method and actually brought in something incredibly smelly and a gas mask.
Right. It could be because because they're both coughing.
I'm imagining he made his own mustard gas. I'm not gonna lie. I'm imagining he has a bucket and he put bleach and ammonia in it, and now we have mustard gas.
That's very possible. And the thing is that
they'd be crying more than
you have to know. You have to know though that I picture Bernard's wife as the Maud
as a chicken.
No,
good joke.
But I'm just imagining her as this bizarre, kind of clingy, but also in an endearing, folksy way. But then also kind of Bernard, he's always doing things in his workshop.
Yep.
So she walks in on him making mustard gas, and she's just like,
I'm gonna go steal some information from Satan.
I was gonna put on some tea. Do you want ice cream? And Bernard is bent over some vat of mustard gas with a mask and goggles, and he's like, "Just put it on the counter, babe."
Yeah.
And when he's done, he goes in and he eats ice cream, and probably is still in bed before 9:30.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the dream right there. Make mustard gas, eat ice cream, go to bed at 9:30.
The folksy domestic terrorist.
So it works.
Wad Fam Chalk Pod does not support domestic terrorism.
That does support ice cream.
Yes.
In this one instance, the views of Andrew Acebo do affect the views of our podcast.
That's view number 2. Okay.
Wow.
Last time, this has happened before.
Okay. There is precedent.
It's almost like the show is kind of mine.
Fair enough.
Okay, so Bovril leaves the laptop in the office because they're both trying to get out so quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And then we cut to Jason.
Well, no. So they want to take the laptop out, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll put a towel."
I cover everything with towels first, which you cannot possibly have covered everything with towels and just unleashed this vat of chemical death.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to guess he unleashed the vat and then immediately started throwing towels on things.
Yeah. As you do.
As you do.
And so
it's my Tuesday morning. I don't know about you.
And so we're out in what I assume is an FBI surveillance van that Eugene and Jason are in, and Eugene's like, this isn't the information that we were expecting, which is a really, really good continuity from the previous episode,
right?
Because Jellyfish was getting that computer cleared off so that they could copy all of
Bovril's information
Bovril's info onto it, and Rodney knew that but didn't communicate it, and Maxwell knew it, but he is in a coma, and so all of Jellyfish's info is gone. Jason saw him moving it around, and that was kind of the end of it. Right. And it is now Bovril's info, which would be a problem, except that it ends up being incredibly beneficial, because Eugene's like, oh, it's just like a bunch of chemical equations, but they all have one common denominator, and I kind of recognize it. It's It's the one from that I found when I analyzed the rocks at the college. In every instance, like, these minerals are acting as a catalyst. It's inert. And then Jason, in an incredible moment of just, like, word association, the game, and just, like, that superhero epiphany moment.
Ru-Ka?
Well, so he's like, inert. The silent one. Ruka. Ruku. Oh, I have it. And then you just see, like, the galaxy brain, like, Jason's got it all figured out. He can see through the Matrix, and he's just like, I know what to do. I know what Blackgaard is after. And so he is, like, locked in.
Yeah.
And at this point, Bernard has made it back out to their van.
Right, and Bernard helps serve the exposition to the audience as Jason is explaining to Bernard, it's not Glossman that wants the tunnel, it's Blackgaard.
Right.
And I know exactly what he's after. And so, what are the marching orders? They get the Israelites to beef up surveillance of Wits End.
So yeah, he tells Eugene to have Billy call all the Israelites and get them to surround Wits End, but they're gonna be at a distance. And then Bernard's like, actually, there's a service road that no one really knows about that I use. You could have them take that, so that they can surveil more closely. And they're gonna record all the license plates of things coming and leaving that road. And then that's kind of that's the plan. And then Jason's gonna go off to do his own thing. He's like got some calls to make.
Right, and that's when he says, to the bat phone.
To the bat phone. He's left the van. He's walking towards Wit's house. He's like, right, to the bat phone.
Which is a great little line.
I love it so much. And then Lieutenant Shaw.
Yeah.
Lieutenant Shaw, Odyssey Police. Sorry, that was the best voice impression I could do of that one. And
That's
I coughed.
okay. So Jason gets arrested.
Yeah.
Yeah. And basically, he's like on what charges? He's super confused. And then
for making death threats.
Yeah, for getting death threats.
Regis Blackgaard.
Mayoral candidate.
Oh, mayoral candidate. Yeah, that's right.
And basically, so he plays the tape for him.
Well, that's not even yet. Because we then jump back to the hospital. This is a lot happens in this episode. Mm-hmm. Because we go back to the hospital where Maxwell is out of the coma, but asleep, and Tom's found out from Eugene the information about him and is ready to talk to him. And so it's Tom and Jack talking at Maxwell's bedside. Tom talking about how he feels responsible for what has happened, and Jack genuinely doing a good job of being like a friend in a very like wit manner.
It's a good Jack episode. Better Jack episode.
Yes. Yeah.
Better. Moderately. Low bar to beat, but better. Yeah, so he's kind of explaining this, and Tom, like as we established last episode, has been really wrestling with this idea of forgiveness, and like I just can't forgive him, and having this really hard time with that. And that's when Jack gets called away, right?
Well, so no, Jack says he offers to leave.
Right.
So that Tom and Maxwell can have
talk.
a proper conversation, because Maxwell kind of wakes up and Tom's like, Richard, like, you're a
he's
hero.
not awake at the time. So he's out of the coma, but he's asleep, right?
Correct.
And so he wants to talk with him, but he's asleep.
But then he wakes up.
No, Richard says something first, because he's like, you guys gonna talk all night? I'm trying to get some sleep.
And then Jack says...
What I'm saying is that the reason Tom says, I would like to have a talk with Maxwell while Maxwell's asleep.
Right?
Yeah.
What?
So Maxwell is not conscious. Like, Tom doesn't think that...
Oh, you think
Maxwell
that Tom was just going to say it to him while he's unconscious?
Yeah, I interpreted that was he was really sad. He knew that, okay, so he's out of a coma. Maybe he's going to recover, but this could very well be his deathbed. And so Tom is trying to reconcile with him. And then Maxwell's like, so you guys going to talk the whole time or what?
Trying to get an interesting interpretation. I didn't think of it that way, but I could picture that.
Yeah. And so Jack, yeah.
The miracle of radio drama.
So yeah. And Jack Jack is still there.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, throughout this whole conversation, which I forgot because he's really quiet. And then, no, wait, he walks out of the room and then he walks back in later. Okay. All right, so Tom, so that interaction happens, and then Maxwell's awake, and Tom leaves the...
Jack leaves the room.
Jack leaves the room. Tom goes on to call Maxwell a hero and apologize for his own stubbornness and pride and ask Maxwell's forgiveness. And Richard, just in a beautiful moment, is like, no, like, I deserved this. And Tom's like, no, you didn't. Like, which is it's so important for us to see that Tom is not only, like, he's not only forgiving Maxwell, but he is also asking forgiveness from Maxwell.
And he's advocating for Maxwell.
Correct.
In the sense that, like, when Maxwell's like, no, like, I'm a bad person, this is my just desserts, Tom's like, no, you're not. Like, I like you because I think that you're a good person now, and I'm asking for your forgiveness because I didn't treat you like that.
Right, exactly. You're not the person I made you out to be. I'm the one at fault. This is us reconciling. And so they forgive each other, which is, just a great moment.
Really
nice.
It's super good.
We've been building to this for so long. Because, like, the whole episode of The Homecoming was them not being able to reconcile.
Yeah.
And then...
him coming back again, and then also not being able to reconcile.
Yep.
And then last episode being like, well, maybe I should reconcile, but maybe I don't know.
Right,
and then this episode
can't
starts
get
out with
there.
him being mean and then actually getting there.
Yeah. So, took Tom long enough, but, like, we're happy that's happened. And then Jack ducks in to say, like, hey, Tom, can you stay with him? Like, I gotta go.
Yeah.
Because he has to go to the police station to see Jason.
Bail out Jason.
So, the police station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaw plays back a tape from the original meeting with Blackgaard that we had all forgotten about, because that was a while ago. That's in The Return, I believe, that interaction happens. And we said at the time, I don't know how you would spin that into be anything. Like, what was the point of that interview thing, or that recording? And they weren't really able to spin it into anything. It is barely a threat, and it's
so obviously cut and pasted, too.
Well, it's pretty good up until the end. Like, the
Stay
last
on your toes,
cut,
Doc.
right,
That bit
is really, really bad. And there's a good bit about it in Adventures in Odyssey, the official guide. The Return.
Bring out the book.
Absolutely. And so this is Nathan Hubler writing this, is talking about that it was originally, they had two versions of it. One where it was like perfectly edited together and you couldn't tell where the manipulation was, and one that had some really obvious cuts. And they decided for the episode, so that it could be clear to the listener, they decided to use the obvious one. But they, in hindsight, kind of regretted that because this one makes the authorities sound a little bit silly for believing anything about it being obvious. Because
it's so obvious.
Because it's so obvious.
Yeah.
The thing is, the episode does kind of address that discrepancy where they're like, well, they had to follow it regardless. But I think it is funny that, like, of course, a show that is as well edited as Adventures in Odyssey, like, made that as a knowing choice.
Yeah.
And and it wasn't that they couldn't edit it into something more clean. Like,
no, and
it's
the fact that they
freaking
regretted
Adventures
it,
in Odyssey. Like,
no, the fact that they regretted it after the fact, I think, is a testament to it just being like, well, we kind of bungled that one.
yeah.
And I think it's funny that they talk about that in the guide. So basically, how does Jason get out of jail?
So he tells he tells Shaw what had happened and says, "Hey, call the NSA."
Is that something you could do? Could you Google the NSA? I mean, it's not a real thing, but like, could you Google the CIA and then call
the
them?
NSA is a real thing.
Wait, what?
The National Security
Security Agency.
Oh.
That's not a made-up thing for the show.
Oh. Well, I've learned something new.
Yeah, NSA is like domestic surveillance.
Oh,
They're
so they're the people that know me really well.
Yes.
I'm gonna
Them
flip my
and
phone over now.
everyone who listens to this podcast.
Yeah, or any of the podcasts, really.
Yeah, that's true. You've got a lot.
I'm not really a closed book.
No, he is not. And so Jason doesn't get out in this episode. You said, how does he get out?
Yeah, he's sitting in a holding cell with Jack. Sorry,
Jack comes to him, and they're sitting together there.
Yeah.
And they finally have the conversation
That we wanted to happen for. Oh God.
Yeah, but it starts out bad.
Yes.
With Jason being frustrated and Jack being distant and unsympathetic.
Yep.
And he's being kind of sly and quippy, but not in a way that, like, is nice.
No. Not in a way that benefits.
Well, not in a way that's like, we're two friends having fun. Because Jason's like, why didn't you just lock me up and throw me in a closet? And Jack's like, I didn't realize that was an option. Like, deadpanning.
Yeah.
Not being like, I didn't realize that was an option.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't do it in a way that's, like, as comedic as it should be, in my opinion.
I can get some of Bernard's gas and knock you
That
out.
was pretty funny.
It's funny. It's just not delivered in a comedic sense.
No, he definitely is just all straight guy in this little interchange.
Yeah, so, and this is kind of when Jason comes back around, right? And he's like, okay, he starts off being angry, and we have this, like, very clear conflict.
Where he's just mad at the injustice of all this, and also that, like, he let himself be taken advantage of in this way. Like,
he uses the word idiotic quite a bit.
He's spy Jason. He's better than this.
Yes, that's what we've been saying. I.e., the Israelites being bad.
He shouldn't have a child army.
Apparently not.
And so he then is just like, I've been arrogant. I don't know how to fight this anymore. I think you've been onto something, and just like, I need your forgiveness.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you everything. Stuff about me and my past, stuff about Dad. Like, we're gonna get into this. But before we do that, let's pray.
And they do the good, the Odyssey prayer cutscene.
Yep.
Where they start the prayer and then they transition away from it, which is good.
Good.
I love it so much as a choice.
They do that. And then we cut to a scene of, it's like a press meeting.
From Kurt Morse. Voiced by Kurt Morse.
Is it Morse or Morris?
So it sounds like Morris in the episode. The actor is Morse.
Oh,
the character is listed on the wiki as Morse. But I think it might be a joke where, like, Kurt Morse with a C voices like Kurt Morris with a K, and we just can't tell.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
Ha 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 ha.
Right.
Ha ha.
That might be the case, or it might just be everybody pronouncing his name weirdly. But regardless, it's Kurt Morse.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guy,
and he's live at the Harlequin, where Blackgaard's about to make a statement about Jason.
And
Blackgaard looks pale.
Yeah, Blackgaard looks pale, and
probably from all the gas.
Gas. But anyway, so Blackgaard comes out and he addresses the crowd and he tries to be magnanimous. And I thought that this was like an incredibly Odyssey thing to do, where he says, even while this was happening, I was hoping, and then he gets emotional, praying that this was all a bad dream, but it wasn't. And
I hope that justice will prevail.
Right. He says, I bear no ill wish towards Jason. He needs professional help.
Oh, yeah.
So he's being, like, oozing with He's being magnanimous. He's being magnanimous. I don't know the right way of saying that. So he's
oozing with magnanimosity?
So the point is, Blackgaard is in front of these people. He doesn't look good. He says some nice things about Jason wanting him to get help, and he also makes a allusion to some kind of a spiritual connection, which he obviously does not evidence in any other way, which is like one of those things where it's like, oh, politicians might use their spirituality to try to win you over. Too bad we didn't see that coming when it happened again and again. Well, Jerry Falwell Jr. coming at you. But anyway, the point is that Blackgaard is a bad guy pretending to be a less bad guy, and then when he says justice will prevail at the end, he's super dramatic and he faints. But pots. He doesn't just faint. He makes his signature fainting sound. This is my impression of Blackgaard's fainting sound.
All right. I'll accept it.
Actually, there's overtones in it of more than that, but it's also kind of throaty, and I could almost.
How do you convey audibly eyes rolling back into head?
Right. And just like your body kind of swaying as you fall.
Yep.
It's
really good acting.
Yeah.
Shout out to Earl Bowen.
As one who has passed out many times in my life, I would say that it goes, oof, black.
Right. It's very theatrical.
Yes.
Of like, we've got to communicate this complex thing.
Well, but the thing is that he makes a sound. We hear the sound of him hitting the ground or the stage or whatever he's on.
Yep.
And then Kurt Morse takes over, and Dr. Blackgaard has collapsed. And then we hear in the background Glossman yelling, somebody call an ambulance. Right. And that's the end of the episode.
Yeah. That's the end of the episode, guys.
A doozy.
So I have a question for you, the two of you.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was the last resort?
Bernard Walton. In times of trouble, we put out the bat signal, and here he comes with his squeegee and his adorable folksy metaphors to save the day. Bernard Walton, window washer.
You know what? It's so funny because when I thought about the title too, I was like, I thought that this one, because the episode before this was Another Chance, right?
Correct.
I thought that the names were switched. I thought that this episode was called Another Chance because that would have made so much more sense to me. And then when I found out that it was called The Last Resort, I was like, I don't know. They just thought it sounded epic. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's Odyssey.
Yeah.
You know, it was a good title.
Yep.
What's the title of the last
Final
episode?
Conflict.
The Final Conflict.
Oh.
Yeah. So, any other thoughts on this episode?
A lot happens.
It is,
and yet it's so dialogue driven.
Mm-hmm.
It is an incredible episode from a just like, how did they pull it off perspective? Because we get the conclusion of two major arcs of forgiveness that are not rushed through by any means. And we also get recaps of everything up to this point and good plot advancement and a Bernard side plot. Like, it is
perfect.
I don't know how they pulled it off, but I am so glad they did. Shout like all the praise for this episode to Mr. Lawler and Mr. McCusker, who co-wrote it. Although I think Paul McCusker is the only credited director. But you know,
it's a good episode. There's a lot in it. There's a lot of memorable moments. It was like, I mean, first of all, I just quote things because I think it's funny, and I like to do impressions of Odyssey characters every now and again. It kills me that we didn't have the Crying Brian Dern show on this episode.
It runs in the family.
Yeah, it really does. So Andrew and I are a lot alike in that way, but it really did. Like, I thought they did a great job of moving the plot, making it memorable, making it quotable, making it fun because it's Odyssey, but also making it serious because it's serious Odyssey.
I thought that the setting was really good. I thought that they did a really good job with the setting in the show to set platforms for said plot development. So, like, something about, I mean, obviously being in a hospital makes it more emotionally engaging, you know.
Absolutely.
And
you hear like the little heart monitor in the background.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. And especially, I mean, because, you know, I worked at a hospital, spent time around hospitals. Like, I definitely can completely imagine all of the stuff going down, except for the nurse letting him go into the ED.
Yeah,
I don't know.
You know.
I'm not going to name names, but I have worked with nurses and I have worked with receptionists that could very conceivably have lapses in judgment. That is all I will say about it.
You know what? Everyone could have a lapse.
Okay, so
Yes.
I want to just
No
touch on.
people are rational.
Can we touch on a discussion question real quick because it baffles me?
Yeah, sure thing.
Should Jason have secretly downloaded information from Blackgaard's computer? Why or why not? Why not? I mean, technically it's illegal, right? But
He got a warrant.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
waited to get a court order. So as far as I'm concerned, what they did was like,
Yeah.
it was not only justified, but it was also like legally safe.
Right,
to
right.
do.
That's exactly it. Is the actions I probably could have justified regardless, but the fact that it was legally sanctioned, it's like, yeah, of course.
Right,
Exactly.
Right. It's like, oh my gosh, in Novacom, when they have to wait to get subpoenas and search warrants.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, it's due process.
Right.
Like,
I
law
want the
enforcement.
CPU and all its components.
Yeah, law enforcement isn't good at
Very good.
anything except for providing cover for private citizens to do things that would otherwise be illegal. Thank you, Adventures in Odyssey.
There you go.
That's very succinctly put what we have talked about many times.
Yeah. Our favorite. It's the Whitaker disease. Mm-hmm. They all have a little bit of the.
They're just trying to live up to Bernard. They're he's the real hero. You put out the mop bucket squeegee signal in this night sky, and they're just trying to keep up. I think that's it. I want a Bernard spinoff. Is he dead? The actor that plays Bernard,
Yeah,
is he dead?
Dave.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
In Odyssey canon, Bernard is retired in Florida with his wife.
That kind of makes sense.
Lots of ice cream in Florida.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. Any other closing thoughts?
It was good. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
The final conflict's the next one.
Yeah,
We
I know.
finally close this arc, and then
I am
we still have more
terrified to
episodes.
record that episode.
It's going to be
So much.
It's going to be a behemoth. Like it's.
We're gonna need to block out a lot of time.
Yep. We will talk about it as soon as we are done recording here. 'Cause
Yeah.
I have thoughts. With that said, does anybody plug stuff? I don't know, Brendan. Do you have stuff that you want the Chalk Squad to be
plug?
aware of?
Oh,
I don't know what you do.
No, you know what?
No SoundCloud for us to promote.
I don't have any. I don't have any material released for public entertainment. I probably should get on that, but as of now, if you want anything that's even remotely similar to me, you should just listen to the Acebo podcast because there's a decent bit of him that sounds like me.
Yeah.
Hey!
And you haven't been on a proper episode of the Acebo podcast, have you?
No, I've never been a guest on that.
Wow.
Wow,
strange.
how?
You've
I
been
don't
on
know. I don't know.
No,
No.
No, we did.
you're right.
I
So
think
years ago,
you do pop in on like maybe a Nathan
episode,
episode,
yes.
Yeah.
where you
comes
like
in and
talk about music for like a minute.
Yeah.
But-
yeah, Andrew and I made a podcast that we didn't release years ago called Into the Weeds.
No, we did release it.
It-
It's just been deleted from the internet.
Oh, okay,
It
that's
was
right.
it was released on SoundCloud, but then Andrew, as he was running out of space on SoundCloud, deleted it, and he doesn't have copies anywhere.
No.
because it's Andrew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And why would I?
Well,
is
and
it
it was-
worth remembering?
I mean, it was pretty funny, but it was more entertaining for us. And
Yeah.
that's like the kind of the downside about podcasts is like you get into doing it because it's entertaining for you, but then you keep doing it once you realize that you can make it entertaining for other people. And I don't think we ever got to that point. I'm pretty sure it was just like a fun way to be self-amused for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Oh, when we were doing it, yeah. No, for sure.
It was a good time.
Yeah. I think if I put out a consistent product for the Acebo podcast, I could potentially get something, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's just for you.
Consistency is not my middle name. Yeah.
So speaking of the Acebo podcast, new episode on the way.
On the way.
You think it will be out by the time this episode is out? This will come out Tuesday.
So what are you doing
Okay.
tomorrow?
So yes. So it will not be out when this is. So we will talk about it on the next episode.
Yeah.
If it is out at that point.
Yeah.
It's in the can though.
Yeah.
So that's,
Well,
that's
it's
something.
4 episodes.
Did we get any information about the merch? I remember hearing that on your
There-
last episode. You were selling Make Odyssey. Was it
Return Odyssey
Odyssey
to its former glory.
Yeah.
T-shirts are available at tpublic.com.
Oh my
there will be a link in the description.
Oh my gosh.
If you want to buy those.
Has anyone bought one?
Yes.
We have sold one.
That's amazing.
If you are the person who purchased that, send us a picture.
That's so funny.
If and when you receive it. But yes. And then I'm not plugging anything this week, but we do have a review.
Oh, we do.
So this I stumbled upon a couple weeks ago and just kept forgetting to bring it up. But we received our first review on Stitcher.
Hey!
So thanks to the person who left the review on Stitcher. Know that this is not a place that I check. I only check the Apple Podcast reviews in the US. Mm-hmm. So if you are someone who leaves reviews elsewhere, you're going to have to tell us so that we can find them.
Tweet us a link.
Tweet at us, send an email, DM Andrew on Instagram.
Or Twitter.
But
or Snapchat, really, if you feel so industrious.
But
Acebo Andrew 10 for those who care.
Oh my word. But the it is it's just pure coincidence that I managed to find this. But it's exciting. So user Joyful Tunes leaves us a 5-star review. Great podcast. This podcast is really awesome. Keep up the good work.
Wow.
So
it was short.
It was
sweet, and it was to the point.
I loved it.
A little heckling reference from the Muppets.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
That's what you
yeah,
get when you record a podcast.
that is.
What'd you say?
That's what you get when you record a podcast with us.
That's correct.
So we are going to wrap up this this guest episode, the
penultimate episode
of Darkness Before Dawn. We will be back in a week, sans Brendan, to talk about the final conflict. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Shalom.
WadFam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at WadFamChalkPod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. The Last Resort was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo, with special guest Brendan Acebo. It was edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.